Internet animation has been so exciting in the last few years. From highly produced animated series to small indie pilots, we as the audience are eating very well. Especially with pilots, when animators have the opportunity to showcase their talent to tell a story that yearns to be expanded upon in multiple episodes. Some pilots can be made from veteran animators to even someone who just started out, including YouTubers. And I don't mean like an animation YouTuber, I mean just a normal content creator who started out making videos, develop a fanbase, and decide to create their own animation pilot. Whilst it's a rare feat, this has happened a few times on the platform in varying degrees of scale and success, and that's what I'm here to talk about. We'll be taking a look at 3 different animated pilots that were created by YouTubers who didn't originate as the animators. Just a disclaimer, I'm aware that these YouTubers aren't the sole masterminds. Some people might have forgotten that not everything's made by one person. Animation is very much a collaborative effort, either between a few people or a whole team working their best to create the director's vision. Starting off with the simplest and smallest scale pilot of the 3 is This is created by Izzy, a popular content creator known for exploring or commenting on weird internet culture in their videos. With over 1 million subscribers, they have amassed a huge fanbase for their witty and distinct personality and their well-spoken presentation on their videos. Because of their size on the platform, they decided to venture out to something outside of their comfort zone and began work on their first animated pilot. Now, this is a bit hard to determine the production process as they kept it hidden from all socials, but from my understanding and knowing a bit about how long these anime pilots take, I would estimate that they started working on this around mid or to the end of 2024 and fully moved into production at the start of 2025 with, to my understanding, no real hurdles. The trailer for the pilot would be published on April 5th, 2025, and the full version being released on August 25th. The basic premise of Wastelandia is about 3 roommates, Mach, Zoe, and Alice, tackling their day-to-day struggles and dealing with becoming adults. And I like this short. I adore the drawn-inspired, unpolished look, and the production value is very professionally done, like the character sprite work, the backgrounds, and the soundtrack. I also think that the characters are recognizable for one another, and the voice actors who portray them do a great job. I think they are well casted and fit their characters well. Whilst I don't have anything negative to say about any of the characters, I definitely do have a favorite out of the trio, which is Alice. Her performance by Marcia Hobbs is the best in my opinion, and there were great subtleties within her animation that give it a lot more personality, and of course I think her design is really cute. The plot and the storylines between each character is also easy to understand, especially when it's only 6 minutes, and that's where I have my first major critique for this pilot. In my opinion, I feel like this could have done with a longer runtime, just because I feel like the plot was moving past the characters' issues pretty fast, and it doesn't give us enough time to digest. I also think it would be better to give these characters more room to show rather than explain to us what was happening, which to be fair they have done a bit of back and forth, and yes, I understand it is a pilot and meant to show the premise of the show, but I think with a longer runtime that would help to negate that issue and give these characters more room to breathe in and to showcase their struggles. Also, most people have noticed this as well, but the audio mix is not entirely great. Sometimes the music is too loud, or the characters are just too quiet, and yeah, it's a little bit of a mess. One of the more critical critiques I've heard on social media is the writing, more specifically the humor being really cringy. And whilst I understand where that is coming from, I would defend that point and say that it actually works well within the pilot. Because yeah, these characters are becoming adults, they grew up with the internet. I could totally see them making cringy meme humor, and surprise surprise, talking about memes in real life has always been cringy outside friend groups. It's hard to write dialogue about social media and memes, but I think Izzy did a great job using it as a way to personalize and relate more to the characters a bit more. Overall, I think this is a good pilot. Although the ending doesn't give me a good idea as to what the rest of the series will look like, and the pilot being a bit too short, I really did have a good time watching it, especially when you look at the small size of the team, like they did a great job with what they worked with. It's been generally well received with the audience, but there's a small minority that absolutely despises this pilot, like it's the worst piece of animation they've ever seen, and it's like, no, like, Far from it. Whilst plans haven't been confirmed publicly yet, it seems like they are still working on drafting more episodes in the near future, so I definitely have my eyes open to see more development on Wastelandia, and hopefully it does become a full cartoon series, because so far we have seen a recent success of an animated series that started out as a pilot, titled Catching Up is created by Mach, started out as a semi-commentary channel before pivoting towards insightful reviews or retrospectives on animated media. Even if you haven't watched an Mach video, you could tell right away how deeply passionate he is on cartoons and animation in general. Around 2020, he would get the motivation when he noticed the influx of original internet animations. And thus, with the money he saved thanks to YouTube, it led him to develop his pilot. Behind the scenes, things looked promising. The premise that Mach wanted to focus on were two friends going through social circumstances, kind of similar to shows like Clarence and Regular Show. Some of the things you learn behind the scenes are quite interesting. The original designs of our two leads being vastly similar to another popular cartoon, only for Mach to not realize this until he finalized the designs. It's also interesting to see the connections he built with people in the animation industry. It must have been a great learning curve to understand when making the original pilot. The original pilot. The one that's been released to the public is not the same version from the one in 2020. Despite how well everything was going and how far into production they were, the original version was scrapped. Mach felt like it wasn't as good as he hoped for and started to feel distant from the pilot. This didn't mean he would move on. He would later return to the pilot around 2022, reworking the story so that he can add his own personal experience from his school days. That includes readjusting Rob's personality, which meant recasting a role to Mackenzie Atwood, who was actually in Wastelandia. With the story as well, he wanted to amplify the message of growing up and going through that awkward puberty stage. After much work and anticipation, Mach would finally release his pilot.
Don't be jealous just cause I got two bitches.
Honestly, what a great pilot! A special highlight to the two voice leads, the chemistry on screen is wonderful and I love how natural it felt. It's reminiscent of some of my own friendships. The writing is very good as well. Some of the jokes coming out of nowhere from Rob, and it's so surprising and yet well timed and executed. I love it.
Brackets, they might even, you know.
I don't know.
Me neither. I was hoping you did.
I also love when the writing puts us into situations we've definitely experienced or witnessed before and can feel the awkwardness oozing in. And again, the cringy dialogue from the leads work well within their characteristics because, hey, we were once cringy teens, and he wrote in such accuracy that I almost see myself in some scenarios. If you couldn't tell, I love the writing and the characters. I also really like the animation style, very reminiscent of early 2010s cartoons. It's a really nostalgic art style, and yet Mach and the animators still helped to make it distinct enough that it has its own identity. It was very cool to hear Mach talk about his interest in rigged animation because, truth be told, I didn't realize it. I thought this was all handmade because of how smooth and swift the facial and body proportions move. I don't know why, I think that's just so cool. Overall, this is very good, and I just had a great time watching this. You could really tell that Mach and everyone involved put so much love and care into this pilot that it's really not a surprise that it has done so well on YouTube. In fact, this is the only one in this video that is moving forward as a series, with a successful Kickstarter, the second episode releasing to more critical success, and more development on future episodes. Mach has done the impossible and has accomplished a goal he wanted to do since 2020. And that's incredible. Something that I couldn't say for our very last pilot in this video. Danger Dolan. You've heard that name before. Whether it be from his top 10 videos or his question and answer series featuring his close-knit group of friends. There's a lot of interesting lore surrounding the Planet Dolan network, including of course, Shima's disappearance. But hey, that's not what I'm here to talk about. Now listen, is it kind of cheating that we have a channel that is dedicated to animation? Kind of, but we also have an extensive list of other channels that are not solely on animation, and he didn't start out with it in the beginning, so in my opinion, I think it counts. In the last few years, however, you may have noticed that there's a large gap between videos. How large? Well, years apart. And the leading cause of this drop-off is due to working on his pilot. And while it seemed to be another venture for Dolan, it turned out to be his most stressful and riskiest project he has ever undertaken. This is Destruna. It's interesting doing research on Dolan and his journey with his pilot. His original plan for starting YouTube was to actually make a full season cartoon, and over the years since making anime videos on Super Planet Dolan, whilst it seemed he was in the right direction, he was aware that it required way more funding and crews to even get a proper cartoon into production, especially when Dolan wanted to do it through the normal industry way. The industry way meaning pitching to the major studios and hoping it get funded and released to their streaming platform or cable network. Even when he's aware of the huge success some original internet shows had become, he was adamant that this is the way he wanted to direct his focus on for his cartoon. Despite what initially seemed like Dolan being ignorant about the landscape of animation, he feels like this is the best way to present his cartoon and break into the industry. So much so that in order for better preparation for Dolan, he collaborated with more animators than usual to create these high quality anime music videos like Origin of Gooby and The End of Doopy. This is so Dolan found a preferred method of how to run his team. He's so committed to create this pilot that he was willing to sell his house to fund the project. Around the start of 2020, Dolan felt ready to start work on the pilot. He drafted the pilot as an original IP. It had no relation to his characters from Planet Dolan. Things were looking good. He had a whole team of animators move into an office space that will be efficient communicating his vision. Until March 2020, and everyone knows what happened. It hit pretty hard for everyone involved and made everyone go to remote work, which slowed down production. For his voice actors, Dolan wanted to cast experienced actors. Kate Mulgrew would be the first one to be casted before all the other actors would get involved, like David Hayter and Christina V and Tom Felton. By the time all the voice actors were casted, there were about 50 people now working on this pilot, a frankly huge size given what we've seen from our other two pilots, but it kinda makes sense. Instead of going through traditional 2D animation like the others, Dolan decided to go for cel-shaded 3D animation, similar to shows like Dragon Prince and Genlock, the latter in which is where Dolan got the most inspiration from. Months would go by and everything started to get better. The lockdown was subdued, and despite some technical difficulties with the models, they managed to get the fully rendered pilot completed. So, with this many setbacks during the production, how did the pilot turn out? Well, I think it's fine. Destruna is about our main protagonist, Don, trying to figure out the disappearance of his mother figure, Gekka. In order to accomplish this goal, he must fight in the Galactic Tournament, where the main prize is the ultimate sunglasses, capable of showing the user what they desire the most. And with the help of Yonzawa and Kat, will he be able to accomplish this? Honestly, a pretty interesting setup, and it helped to carry that premise all the way till the end of the pilot. The grand scale of this universe Dolan created is fascinating and makes you want to learn more about it. The style, the animation, the choreography is also well made, even if there are moments where it does sometimes look unpolished, or the frame rate drops so low that it's kind of nauseating to look at. Nevertheless, I would legitimately think it was made by the same studio who did the Dragon Prince. And the pilot did a great job leading to a satisfying conclusion and build up anticipation for the next episode. The designs of the characters are also pretty good. Like, they're not the most iconic or unique looking, but I can recognize them from a mile away, and I think they match their personalities to the VAs mostly well. The voice performances are where I have some mixed feelings on. I think overall everyone did a good job. I was a bit thrown off by David Hayter, but I've gotten used to it by the end of the pilot. But the performance I couldn't really get behind is Tom Felton as Don. Now look, Tom Felton has been the internet's punching bag for a while, and if I learn more about him, I'm just gonna go down in a deep and dark rabbit hole that I just don't have the energy to do. But what I can say is I wasn't sold on his performance, whether it be his accent or performance not matching with the right emotional beats I was hoping for, or the way it's not connecting with the character's mannerisms or movement. I don't know, there's just something off about it that I just unfortunately couldn't connect with. However, despite these flaws, I think Dolan and his team did a great job. For a debut pilot, the scale and ambition of the story, whilst keeping it constrained for cartoon format's sake, is a difficult skill that I think they managed to accomplish. There's a solid foundation for them to expand upon and keep building onto the characters and the universe. But unfortunately, there isn't a happy ending for Destruna. Before any screenings between friends and family would have happened, one of the writers for Planet Dolan, Tolop, passed away. Whilst not indirectly impacting production, this took a massive toll on Dolan, who was really close friends with her. I couldn't imagine what was going through his head during that time. It also didn't help that Destruna was pitched to several streaming services to either no responses or declines. Surprisingly, Netflix was the more interested out of the others, but decided to not move forward due to the show not meeting their target demographic, which is fucking wild. Funds were also running out, and when they tried to pitch the show to Screen Australia, the main government funding body for digital creative works, they couldn't greenlight it unless they were being distributed by a platform, and they encouraged them to make a smaller pilot. From my understanding, this is done to ensure that the animation studio have other works to pitch and showcase their capabilities. But when you look at this other pilot, it just looks really bad. It generally felt like Dolan rushed and tried to put this whole new pilot together. But it didn't matter. In the end, they didn't get the additional funding needed. This caused a lot of financial strain for Dolan, as he couldn't get any more loan to keep the studio afloat, and thus had to resort to selling his house. During this whole ordeal, he wouldn't be posting much on his channels because of his focus on the pilot, causing these channels to be essentially abandoned. After months of pitching with no results, closing the studio down, and selling his house, Dolan threw in the towel for Destruna. Now, that's not to say he's given up on it. He stated that Destruna had enough material for 6 episodes to be converted into a comic series, which could work, but it'll depend on his Patreon performance. As of the making of this video, this comic book series still hasn't materialized. Dolan explained how terrible and stressful this whole process of pitching and trying to keep afloat with no income. And when everything was over, he had to essentially restart from scratch. He's fully aware that a lot of the decisions were from his own fruition, and he was to blame for everything. Honestly, fucking hell. I and many others never knew this all happened. It sucks seeing a career you watched for many years showing his low point and telling us directly his own downfall. It's vulnerable to come out on video and admit that. And sure, you can dog him about his recent Shima videos on the Super Planet Dolan channel or his VTuber reaction videos. Which yeah, it did seem like a desperate way to get back his viewers, but honestly, I just can't blame him. Dolan has since stopped uploading on any of his channels for more than a year now, with no update about where the direction he's taking for his YouTube career or his life in general. Again, this sucks. I'm optimistic that he's still trying to pursue animation or continue making videos on YouTube, or even, just taking a break from everything. I didn't mean to end this video in such a somber tone. I think we can all learn from all of this is that pursuing animation and especially trying to pitch a series is incredibly hard. Sure, you've seen the ones that have made it, but what about the pilots that are still in limbo? The pilots that have so much potential as a series, but they just didn't get enough support or studios aren't interested in making them. It's a sad reality that a lot of indie animators and even YouTubers with established fan bases struggle with. If there are other YouTubers you know that have pivoted to making an anime pilot, let me know in the comments below, and if there's enough interest, I'll make another video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time.